Mr. Chairman, as the budget is concerned with the provision of means by which the third five-year plan may be carried out, and as subsequent budgets will inevitably be concerned with the same subject, it is necessary to know what the exact cost of carrying out the plan will be. Now, the finance minister said in his speech in March last that the foreign exchange needed for carrying out the plan would have to be greater by 500 crore of rupees. He has said in his recent speech that the estimated gap in the balance of payments has widened partly because in some respects the initial estimates were on the low side, and partly because the rise in prices abroad. I want to know whether the total cost of 5-year plan now is 5000 crore or more. I think we must have a full idea of the cost of the plan before we consider measures that are being adopted in order to provide the means for carrying it out. I have no doubt that the finance minister will give us full information on this point. Now, sir, before considering the question of taxation, I would like to ask him what measures have been taken by government to add to our earnings from exports. This is a subject to which the finance minister has referred more than once, but we are not aware of any particular step having been taken to increase these earnings. I know that a committee has been appointed to consider this matter. We do not know how long the committee will take to submit the report, but it is of importance for us to know, in view of the amount of foreign exchange needed, whether it is possible for us to expect a substantial increase in our export earnings in the course of a year or two. The finance minister has made remarks which lead one to expect that there will be no further taxation during the next 2 years. If the state governments fail to discharge their duty, then the finance minister will come forward with new measures of taxation to the extent that new resources are necessary. The attempt of the center seems to be to increase the resources. This is practically what the finance minister said in March last. Anyone who compares the conditions of the masses in this country with the standard of living of the man in the street in more advanced countries of the West cannot fail to be struck by the contrast between the two. It is not possible for me to take all the taxes that are going to be imposed into consideration, but I will say just a few words about two or three taxes. The indirect taxation that has been imposed, it seems to me, is very large. In fact, the government of India have depended for extra resources more on indirect taxation than on direct taxation. I do not say that no indirect taxation should be imposed in any case, but is it necessary in view of what I have said to impose so many indirect taxes? Taxes may be small, but if you consider the rise in prices, the burden imposed on the poorer people will be appreciable. Then I should like to consider the tax on cement and steel. I am aware of the fact that the price of imported steel has gone up, but government have raised the price of steel, I suppose, because of the rise in the price of foreign steel. Now, I would like to refer to one other matter, namely price of food articles and cloth before I make one or two brief remarks about the defense forces. I think the finance minister has said something which led one to think that prices of food grains and cloth have gone down during the last few months. Now, though the index figure may show this, the price of cloth to the consumer or the price of food grains is not 1 pi less than it was when the finance minister increased excise duty on cloth last year. As regards food grains, nobody can see whether it is a fact that their price has fallen. In spite of the food subsidy fund which finance minister has promised to create, I do not think that the question of food can be dealt with easily. The center last year released substantial quantities of food grains from its food stocks, and yet the inflationary pressure continues because of the policy of government, and I think that it will continue unless the production increases substantially. I do not think that we shall be completely rid of these pressures. Now, I would like to say a word about the defense forces. We have got a small army. It is necessary, therefore, to see that it is well equipped and that the officers and the men are contented. It does not possess the modern equipment necessary to discharge its duty well. Dear sirs, we were given to understand that you are anxious to exhibit your goods at the Congress exhibition to be opened next month. We must confess that it is now some time since the matter was brought to your notice, but nevertheless we believe that you are still anxious to take part. If you are, we are glad to inform you that you will be thoroughly satisfied with the results. We have already received a number of enquiries about reservation of floor spaces. We are quite willing to help you, and we would ask you to let us know your wishes at once. This is a case in which you will be well advised to act with speed as up to the moment of writing. We have already received as many as 100 applications. You may ask, what is our object? We strongly believe the section of the trade in which you are engaged ought to be represented in the exhibition. It is for the reason that we have not, up to the present time, dealt with any of the applications. When a similar exhibition was held 3 years ago, we were in the unhappy position of having to refuse several exhibitors who sent in their requirements at too late a date for us to make proper arrangements, and all the best stands had been taken. You will be interested to know that we have been able to arrange for the next exhibition to include special section for the various textile exhibits. Instead of one section, there will be five. The charges for space are shown in the enclosed table, and as you will see, are intended to cover ordinary requirements. We shall be pleased to send on request special quotation for exceptional cases, and we should advise you to send in your application not less than the date we have already mentioned. We enclose a sketch plan on which is marked the space which has been reserved for the various exhibits. You will see that prices vary according to the amount of space which it takes according to the actual position of the stand in the exhibition. Yours faithfully.